So, what is our first topic going to be?
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Midness.
Oh, you mean like the most disappointing movie I've ever watched in my entire life?
Probably.
Oh, alright. So, I guess we should start with the parts we liked about it, which, don't worry, it'll be very short. The music fight was cool.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything else you liked about the movie?
I'm trying.
I mean, other than the music fight, there's not a whole lot to really like in the movie. I mean, it just kind of falls flat at pretty much everything it tries.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. I really tried.
I mean, you can tell that Sam Raimi wanted to make the movie good, but Disney probably didn't give him enough time to really fulfill what he wanted to do with the movie.
Yeah. A lot of weird writing decisions.
I mean, it's sad that a sequel to one of the best Marvel movies is one of the worst Marvel movies. It's really sad.
Yeah. It had
Because
so
there
much
was
potential too, and they just skipped so much.
it felt like so much happened off screen in this movie.
Baron
Like
Mordo.
it felt like there should be a movie between this one and No Way Home, because like I don't know, because like I can kind of see why the story takes the way it does, but like it doesn't really address a lot of the things that they kind of said they were going to. Like in the trailers, they make it seem like I know you've been seeing the trailer for this movie, correct? Because you were smart.
All I saw was what they put at the end of No Way Home.
Yeah. So I think maybe you can agree. They made it really seem like this movie was made about dealing with the aftermath of No Way Home, but it really wasn't, which is kind of a letdown because what they gave us instead of that is really weak and not a whole lot to really get excited for.
For a movie about the multiverse, it really didn't feel like it did much for the multiverse.
Yeah, we see a bunch of worlds in a quick flash through, like a paint world, a world with dinosaurs, and all these other cool worlds. But the world we end in is just a world where everything is pretty much the same, except for there's this one guy who sells like pizza things and keeps punching himself because of Doctor Strange's magic.
But I think the best part of the movie is where El Macho destroys the Illuminati.
Yep, easily the best part because it's actually interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I think the biggest letdown in this movie, though, is how they kind of completely just screwed up the continuity around Strange Supreme.
I think it's
Because
a different
they don't.
one that kind of went down the same path, but it's not the exact same one we saw in What If.
Yeah, but I mean, I know you only saw the first trailer, so but all the other trailers, and some other stuff that was released made it seem like it was made the same Strange Supreme. Because I think I told you the story, but I'm in the movie theater about to watch the movie, and they have like a review of it before the trailer that spoiled like most of the movie. It's like, oh, here's Strange Supreme and all these other really cool characters that you didn't know were going to be in this movie until just now. So I was like, oh, Strange Supreme, I kind of thought that who it was. So it's cool. And I saw the movie and I was like, he's kind of boring. And then I watched What If afterwards. And I was like, why is he so much better in What If?
Yeah.
Because he really is.
So.
And I think the new characters in this movie don't really add a lot.
They're cardboard.
Like, America is just something that needs to be protected. She's not really a character in this movie.
She's just a walking plot device, like no character.
The cameo characters were kind of lame because they weren't that character. Which I mean, it makes sense logically why Professor X is there instead of in the X-Men world. But at the same time, it makes watching him die not as impactful because it's not actually Professor X. It's just some weird other version. The one we've grown to care about.
And even in the X-Men movies currently, he's still young. He's not Patrick Stewart anymore. Speaking of those variants, gotta love how the Fantastic Four guy, I don't remember his name, claims to be the smartest man ever, gives away their trump card instantly.
Oh, The guy from Fantastic Four, who's like supposed to be like the
Yeah,
smartest man ever.
Reed Richards.
The way he dies is probably the most entertaining part of that entire movie. And then gets turned into like those little set like candy that's like licorice flavored, and it's like wrapped around itself like in that sticks.
Yeah.
So it's Twizzlers. Man got turned into a Twizzler.
Yeah.
Like the way that those characters died, just it felt like the movie couldn't keep a consistent tone. Like it wanted those deaths to be kind of comical, but at the same time, it tried to make them dark at the same time. I mean, there's this movie definitely tried to have some horror elements into it, but it just didn't really work because if you have a action superhero movie like the first Doctor Strange, it's probably one of the darkest MCU movies, but you can tell that it does it like effortlessly. Like it's not trying to force it. It's just the way the story is written. It is.
Yeah.
But with Multiverse of Madness, it kind of feels like the darker elements are just kind of shoved into the movie.
I think that's part of Disney's fault.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably like tonally very appropriately dark, but then Disney kind of just went, no, we gotta market this to 10-year-olds.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this movie kind of put Marvel in a really tricky spot because you haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder yet, correct?
No, I have not.
Yeah, so I won't spoil anything, but it kind of has the same pacing issues as Doctor Strange as Multiverse of Madness. It has really similar pacing issues. I will say it's probably better than Multiverse of Madness, but not by much. Probably by like one star. It's probably like a 6 out of 10 compared to Multiverse of Madness is like 4 to 5 out of 10. So it's a bit better, but um, it feels like Disney really kind of just stopped wanting to try with the MCU because they just want the money.
Yeah.
Because you can definitely tell that that after No Way Home, which they couldn't really rush because they didn't have full control over that movie. But now that they have full control over the MCU movies, they're really trying to rush them out.
Yeah, they're gonna need to like pick up the quality because right now I really don't care much.
It's the next MCU movie is what Black Panther 2.
Yes.
So well, Wakanda. I wasn't really. I'm interested to see what they'll do with that movie, mainly because the main actor is unfortunately deceased. But I really hope they don't do any deep fake stuff. Like, or if they do, it's only for a brief part of the movie to like, and then they have him die at some point in the movie. And then like maybe I don't know, someone else takes the mantle of Black Panther. Because if they have an entire movie where it's just Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, but as a deep fake, that's just really disrespectful to the original actor. But I wouldn't put it past Disney.
A way they could get away with it is if they keep his mask on the whole time he's on screen
Mm-hmm.
and try and find someone who sounds close enough.
That would kind of be fine because, again, I mean, I guess you'd have to use a bit of deep fake because there's no way you can keep his mask on the entire movie.
Yeah.
But I do hope that they do kill the character off because it's kind of like disrespectful to just keep going with the character after the original actor passed. Maybe that's just me, but
Yeah.
I've never been that big of a Black Panther super fan. He's kind of cool, but
Yeah, he's kind of mid.
I mean, his first movie is. I mean, Black Panther 1. I think it's really good. Killmonger is a really interesting villain, especially in What if they got to continue Killmonger's story and What If he saved Iron Man. I think Killmonger's a really interesting villain, but as far as Black Panther goes, he's not that interesting.
He suffers a little bit from like Superman syndrome in a way where he's really hard to kill, so it messes with stakes a
Yes.
lot.
Mm-hmm. And like I think Superman syndrome was a thing that the MCU kind of struggled with for a long time. But I mean, as we've seen with Endgame, we lost two of our biggest heroes, and in Infinity War we lost quite possibly the strongest Avenger, Vision. Although Vision's kind of claims to no big loss there.
True.
It feels like after Endgame, Marvel has been kind of a bit scared to just end storylines. because they wrapped up Captain America and Iron Man story, and then it's like, oh well, No Way Home, it's the third Spider-Man movie. Usually the third one is the last one, as seen with the Sam Raimi trilogy. Oh wait, we're leaving it open ended so we can bring him back.
Well, Phase 4 doesn't really have much of a direction to go in, because Phase 1 goes to Avengers 1, Phase 2 is for Ultron, and then Phase 3 is for Infinity War and Endgame.
Mhm.
But Phase 4 just doesn't have that anywhere.
Where do you really go after No Way Home? Where do you really go? I mean, we got all these character stories. The only Phase 4 movie I was excited for was Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
When they were first announced, I later would get excited for Multiverse of Madness because I was like, oh, Spider-Man was so good. Obviously, they're gonna keep up this good train. And then Multiverse of Madness was mid, and then so was Thor 4, and now I'm like, okay, what is going on?
Guardians 3 really needs to be good, otherwise there's like nothing in the MCU I'm gonna care about for a while.
If Black Panther 2 is phenomenal, then great, but like, is this really the movie that Disney wanted? I mean, I hope it's really good, but at the same time, if it's not good, it won't hurt as much as as Multiverse of Madness and Love and Thunder not being very good.
We went wildly off topic.
Mm-hmm.
What haven't we talked about yet? Story?
The story of Doctor Strange too.
Yeah.
I mean, what story really is there? It's like the story happens, but if you really look at the movie, only about like 5% of it is actually designated to the movie. Like 5% of this movie is actually story. The rest is just trying to fill out the rest of the movie. Like we spend so much time in that one world, and then nothing comes of it. The only other world we see in this movie, nothing really happens in the world, but yet we spend so much time in it.
Also kind of unfortunate that the other world was so similar. Could have been way different and made it more interesting.
I think the biggest victim of Doctor Strange 2 though is Wanda. She's easily the biggest victim of this movie.
Yeah.
The writing for her character is just downright terrible.
Yeah. Vision.
Like it just like at first I thought it came out of nowhere that she was that she wasn't over her kids being gone. Because at the end of WandaVision, they make it seem like she's kind of over it, like she misses them, but she's not like but like she wouldn't murder people just to get them. But apparently there was an end credit scene that I missed that I didn't know existed till after I saw the movie that kind of makes it seem like she's not over it. But
Her
I don't
death
know.
was
The fact
also
that
unceremonious.
with the way they killed her off at the end because they didn't know what to do with their character.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, where do we go from here? We don't. We just let her die in this movie.
She just kind of dies and then isn't mentioned at all.
Mm-hmm.
No one
I
set
think
her up, no one cares.
I think this movie. I think this is maybe just a personal problem. I don't like the fact that you have to watch a TV show that's exclusive to Disney Plus in order to get the story of this movie. It felt like more of an advertisement for Disney Plus than it really did a movie. Because you have to see WandaVision to get any part of this movie. Because the whole focus is the aftermath of WandaVision.
Well, it was kind of inevitable once they started making these Disney Plus exclusive series.
Yeah. But like the thing about like Loki is that Loki kind of happened. I haven't seen Loki, so this is just kind of what I know from it. It like happens sort of at like a weird point in the story where it's not like at the very end. It's more of like isn't it like after the original Avengers or something, right?
Yeah, in a way.
You know where Loki's place in the timeline is?
It's after Avengers 1 and also like after Endgame,
Okay.
because it
Okay.
deals with time and stuff, so it's all over the place.
Okay. So I guess that makes sense. But I mean, it's kind of understandable that they would link them into the MCU. But I think that the fact that they decided to do that for a Doctor Strange movie is that like if you want to make a movie that's all about like the aftermath of WandaVision, at least make it off of a character that was in WandaVision, like Wanda herself. Give her her own movie.
Yeah, it's kind of that she's like the main character almost. Because
Like,
I think Wanda, I don't think Doctor Strange.
yeah. So, the one thing I want to discuss, because we've had a brief discussion, but what is your thoughts on the dark hold? Now you've had like a month or two to sit on the idea of it being in the movie,
Uh,
like the fact that the dark hold is in this movie. Because we both have seen Agents of Shield up to the point where the dark hold is in the movie and dealt with, or in the show and dealt with. So we're both pretty familiar with it. And they really do try to make Shield its own universe, but at the same time, it's hard to not draw comparisons between the two universes.
I think it's handled really weirdly. I think the fact that there's like a temple with all the writing in the dark hold on it is kind of stupid.
And it leaves a giant plot hole in Shield, where it's like, well, if Ada's just supercomputer, why didn't she just kind of figure out that the temple existed? Because she seems to know a lot more than she really should. And so you kind of get a hint of like she just knows a lot more, and if she read the Darkhold, I would assume that she knows about the temple, because Scarlet Witch learned about the temple from reading the Darkhold.
Well, didn't she learn about from Wong? Though she was like interrogating him, and he told her about.
Even then, even if she didn't learn it from the Darkhold, which I don't remember exactly how she learns about the temple, because it's been again 2 months since I've watched that movie, so it's a bit dull in my mind. But I feel like if Scarlet Witch could figure out that she needed to interrogate the Sorcerer Supreme to learn about the temple, I feel like Ada could have figured it out. Ada's a supercomputer. That's kind of her thing, is figuring things out, you know?
Yeah.
It just kind of leaves a plot hole in Shield. And I mean, I guess you could say, well, the temple doesn't exist in the Shield universe, but it's like, that's kind of lazy writing.
It also makes that one person's death who like stabbed the book or whatever kind of useless.
Yes, it's also like, well, what's the point of that character? I feel like they wanted to be like a romantic partner for Wong. Like, it's kind of there, and they don't really do anything with it, and they just like, this is kind of a dumb idea. Instead of changing it, we're just gonna like kill her off so that we don't have to really go into detail about that.
They needed someone to stab the book who wasn't a main character.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a problem with what we've discussed, is that like Wong not dying in this movie kind of shows that this movie doesn't have the to kill off its characters. Like, obviously Wanda dies because she's the villain, and the villain always dies, which I don't know, which kind of sucks because she's one of the only remaining characters we have from Endgame. So kind of sucks that she's dead now, but okay.
Wong surviving
And
was such why.
it was like the movie chose Wanda to be its villain because they didn't really know who to make the villain of this movie. Like, if I think it would have been a lot better if they made if this movie didn't really have a villain, but it made like the Illuminati, Professor X, and all the other people, like the antagonist, not exactly the villain. Like, they're trying to stop Doctor Strange because obviously he did the whole thing in No Way Home, but they're not really villains. They're just they just don't really understand the circumstances of why Strange did what he did.
Yeah, like antagonists, but not like evil people.
Right, like you've seen Encanto, right? The grandmother in Encanto. She's not a villain, but she's the antagonist of that movie.
I understand what you mean. Or instead of the Illuminati, they could have just used Mordo.
Like that, I think that's the thing that annoys me the most about the movie. That so I don't in the No Way Home end credit trailer. Did they show Mordo in that?
I do not remember.
I don't know if they did, but in later trailers they did. But then they make it seem like it's going to be the same Mordo. Like, they show lines that only make it seem like it'll be the same Mordo. And then you get to the movie, and that Mordo is literally not even mentioned until they meet the multiverse Mordo.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how they completely skip over him.
Like, are they trying to bring him back for another movie? It doesn't seem like it, because it seems like they're trying to move Doctor Strange into dealing with a really big threat.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like they're kind of like, okay, so we've dealt with the smaller villain, in Multiverse, so now we're gonna make him fight another really big villain like he did in the original, where he fought Dormammu.
And it's really strange that they completely skipped over Mordo because he's like the first or second most well-known Doctor Strange villain up there with Dormammu.
It's like they wanted him in the movie so bad, but they couldn't find a way to keep him in this to keep him in the story. So like, oh, how do we keep Mordo? Oh, I know. Have Strange meet a complete Mordo, but from a different universe.
Did they ever imply the original Mordo from the MCU universe is still alive?
Yes, they do, because at the end, have you seen the post-credit scene for Doctor Strange,
Uh,
the original?
yeah.
They have, but so far, it has not been implied that he's dead. Even I didn't like in the movie. I was listening for that kind of dialogue where it's like, oh, you know, Mordo's dead. Like it kind of sucks that we saw that he died off screen, but at least we get closure that oh, he did die. But I mean, the way they talk, it really makes it seem like he's still alive and out there. They just don't know where he is.
I guess they might be saving him for 3.
If there is going to be a 3 with the terrible reception that the second movie's gotten, I don't know if there will be a 3.
I don't know if this one's even
Because
gotten that bad of reception. It's still an MCU movie, so it's going to get a lot of good ratings.
yeah, true. It feels like the fans, like I think, like the critics of this movie. I don't know what its Rotten Tomato score is, but I don't think the critics gave it too good of a rating,
I'll have to check later, but yeah,
if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure. I don't usually look at those ratings because
But
usually they're just wrong.
it has a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes, which for any other movie is kind of good, but for an MCU movie, that's not very good for an MCU. It's one of those things where it's like the movie is not very good, but it made a ton of money, so we know that even though this movie wasn't good, we're gonna get a third one. Probably in Phase 5, unless they extend Phase 4, which they might.
Wasn't it already planned in Phase 5? Or maybe even 4?
I, I, I haven't seen any Phase 5 leaks, but it's possible that they already have. If they have a third Doctor Strange planned, and that's kind of why they made the decisions they did in this movie, then I guess I can forgive some of this movie. But considering that we don't know if there'll be a Doctor Strange 3, so all these kind of weird decisions don't really make a lot of sense right now. It's kind of just like, why?
I feel like with the end credits scene of Doctor Strange 2 that it implies there's another one that's going to happen because they wouldn't just leave that open, I think.
Well, I mean, considering the final scene of Doctor Strange 1 was Mordo saying that he was going to try to, basically pull a Godzilla in Final Wars and just destroy all the wizards. But like he says, oh, the problem with the world is that there's too many wizards, and we see him taking away the magic of a wizard who used his magic to like allow him to walk. And you're like, oh, so obviously they're setting him up to be the villain for the second one, right? Look, there he is in the trailers. Oh wait, it's a different Mordo. So why do we get set up for him in the end credit scene?
Yeah, that's weird. Speaking of the end credit scenes, the thing with the third eye.
I think I hate the third eye and Doctor Strange more than I do all of Amazing Spider-Man 2. That scene is so stupid, and it's like, first of all, the effect doesn't even look that good. It doesn't look very good. It does not look very appealing at all either. It looks it looks very bad to even look at.
I'm pretty sure in the comics.
And it's kind of, and like the implication of it makes sense. Like, oh, he's going down the same path as Strange Supreme did, so obviously he'll have the third eye. But it's just like, why? It looks like stupid.
It might be a call out to the comics because I think in the comics the Eye of Agamotto was originally like that third eye look.
Okay, I haven't read the Doctor Strange comics. I probably have them somewhere,
I haven't either.
but I haven't read them.
I haven't either. I'm just going off information from the '90s Spider-Man series.
If they do make a third Doctor Strange and it like addresses most of the problems in this movie, then maybe I'll bump this movie score up a little bit because it's like, oh, now we have the third movie to put the second one into context. It's still not great, but but at least it's a bit more enjoyable now that it's not It's now that it's not,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. Like, it's like the usually when a movie puts multiverse into it, it can get kind of messy. But this movie doesn't even use like it's called Multiverse of Madness, but there's no multiverse in it. It's like one world.
I think we mainly see like two different worlds.
Yeah, you see the world with America and the Doctor Strange with the stupid hair, and then you see the world where it's like the pizza guy, like that Doctor Strange makes him punch himself.
I like how the
And I
pizza
keep
business
referring to
was
that
not
clip.
part of that world.
Like when we get that montage of all the different worlds that they're in, that's like a really cool scene. It's like, oh yeah, oh this movie's actually great. They got to hop between a bunch of different worlds, and we're gonna see all these cool different multiverses. Some stuff we haven't seen before, and then it's just Earth with smaller differences, and then we're right back to Earth 616. Yay! I will say that like the first like 20 minutes of this movie aren't like the worst. They're pretty. I mean, all things considered, I don't really understand why Doctor Strange couldn't go with Christine. Like, I think the implication is that like he just didn't think he could make it work because he saved the world and all. But like, it kind of seems like they're like, wait, shoot, we had this relationship here that we kind of forgot about for a bit. We need to do something with it. Oh, I know, just have them not be in a relationship anymore. You're right. Let's do that instead of maybe trying to actually build upon this relationship.
They did end their relationship in the first Doctor Strange, unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
They were I mean, they weren't like fully in one, but they just hinted that they were going to be in, and I guess and what if they are one. The clue the MCU was trying to like, look, these two characters are like, and also another thing is that like this movie kind of really screws with the continuity of What If, or yeah, because What If came out first. Because in What If it said that Christine dying is an absolute point in time in like all universes, but like we see in the mainline MCU that it's not, and in fact, it's not even guaranteed that Doctor Strange and Christine will get in a relationship.
Well, in What If,
So
they say her dying is a keystone in that universe, not all of them. So it's just those.
doesn't he go to a different universe and then wait, or was
No,
it a different time that he fights? I can't. He goes to a different. He's like a different universe or a different time, and he like takes control over the Doctor Strange from there.
he just abuses the time stone
Yeah.
a bunch.
Okay, he goes back in time, and then he absorbs the. Oh no, because it's like they split. He splits like the timeline, and then he goes. It's a messy episode. It's a good episode of What If, probably the best, but it's very messy timeline.
Yeah,
You kind of lose track of what time they're in.
but it's all contained in its one multiverse. It's not going out to other ones.
Okay, if this movie had used the What If storyline or had the What If Doctor Strange Supreme in this movie, I feel like it kind of would have made it a bit better because hey, this really cool characters in this movie now. The rest of the characters, let's be real, are kind of lame. Even though like Wong is great as always, he's not given a lot to do in this movie. Just kind of gets thrown off a cliff, and that's all he really does. But at least now we have this really cool character from that you're not required to watch What If to really get. You just know he's evil. It felt like this movie. Well, because the thing is that like they make a reference to What If with Captain Carter. Which, first of all, how does that make sense? Like, did they pull Captain Carter from that universe, or is she just a different Captain Carter?
I assume it's supposed to be just a different Captain Carter.
Okay, I guess that makes sense, but it's still kind of like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense on why she'd be part of the Illuminati. But this movie's got lazy writing anyway, so no point in trying to figure it out. So you have Captain Carter, which I guess you're like, what? This fills our what if reference quota. But we got Strange Supreme in this movie, making a completely different Strange Supreme. Like, because when they go to the universe and like you see how it's like being destroyed slowly. At first, I thought, oh, they're going into the time like before his universe was completely destroyed. So this happens like kind of in the middle of the What If episode. but then they get there and it's a completely different Strange Supreme.
I think the third eye and the fact that he kind of dies kind of separates it.
Yeah, but obviously, but the way it was being built up made it seem like it was gonna be the same one, and like the trailers too. The trailers too. I mean, the trailers showed an evil Doctor Strange. You're like, oh, who's the only evil Doctor Strange we know? Oh, it's Strange Supreme. Well, I guess he's not fully evil, but like I said, from the way they set it up, if it was like right before his universe was completely destroyed, it would make sense that he was still kind of evil because he doesn't turn good until the Watcher brings him to fight Ultron Supreme.
Yeah. Is there anything else we have to say on it?
Actually, I do have one thing I want to discuss, and that is where the movie, they will probably try to. I mean, we discussed this a little bit on what we think, but like, where is Doctor Strange's character heading next? I think we will get a Doctor Strange 3 in Phase 5. They set it up too much to where like they're gonna do it. What the difference between like this movie's ending and No Way Home's ending is that if they never make another Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, I will be satisfied because the ending is satisfying enough to where you feel like, you know what, that's our ultimate Spider-Man trilogy. It's got every cool villain and even made some not so cool ones even cooler. It's got some of the greatest actors in it. You know what? Perfect ending to this character. If they don't make another one, I'm fine, but I hope they do. But in this movie, you're like, they really did this character and this actor dirty. I really hope we get another one so they can redeem.
Yeah. As for where the character is going, I'm not entirely sure. I assume he's going to try and resolve his thing with Mordo.
I hope, but the way the movie ends, it kind of seems like they go to a different universe. Like they go through the portal, right?
Yeah. And
Unless Mordo has become that powerful,
well, here's the
where
thing.
he's now.
If I recall correctly, inside the portal looks like the Dark Dimension, where Dormammu is.
Yeah, I noticed that. I hope we get some kind of resolution of Mordo's character. Because if we don't, that's going to be really disappointing. Because he's not like one of the best villains, but the way his turn to the dark side makes a lot of sense. Where like he's followed the what's the name of the lady who like is crap, I can't remember her name. She's got like the yellow robes,
Oh,
and
the ancient one?
she like uses before Doctor Strange takes over. She's like the main main person fighting Dormammu.
Her name is just like the ancient one.
For the ancient one, like he's following the ancient one, and it turns out she's been lying to him about where he gets her powers and all this. So it kind of makes sense that she would. And because like you have to lie, and you don't know the things you don't know most of the things. You don't know the things I've done. And they're like, it's like truth. It's like, well, what has she made him do? Because he pretty much followed her blindly. And now this person he's been following for most of his life was lying to him, and he doesn't know what to do. And the end credit scene, it shows that he is fully turning evil now.
I do wonder, since the ancient one was drawing power from the dark dimension, they'll tie that to Mordo and say he started doing that too.
But that is true. Mordo could have used the same thing. Could have started drawing power from the dark dimension.
Because that would tie the portal thing at the end of Doctor Strange 2 to him.
Mm-hmm. If that's what they do with it, then that's fine. It's kind of like the Thor trilogy, where it's like the middle one is the weakest part. And it's like the first one, like the first Thor is not comparable to the first Doctor Strange, but it's not like the worst movie. But then but in order to get to the third one, which is really the third Thor, which is really good, you have to watch the second one, which is not good. And I hope that the third Doctor Strange is going to be good. Just kind of sucks we have that really bad middle chapter of Doctor Strange's trilogy.
Yeah. And as a Doctor Strange fan, it was especially disappointing.
Because that first Doctor Strange is like in contention for like the number 5 spot as like the fifth best MCU movie. It's so good. Like it competes with like Civil War as like the fifth best MCU movie, but the second one is just such a letdown in every way.
Went from like SS tier to like C tier.
Mm-hmm. And the CG in this movie was kind of awkward at times. Was that the one that I understand? Like with the eye and like some like the Shadow Realm, it didn't really look. Sometimes it kind of looked a little bad. I feel like if they had maybe 6 more months to really like flesh out this movie, I think it could have been excellent. But unfortunately, the corporate overloads over at Disney didn't give them that time, and what we're left with is a mediocre movie. That's really my final thoughts on this movie. It's really mediocre and very much rushed.
Hopefully 3 will be better.